Thanks for tuning in to more NFL draft talk on Inside Our Lads NFL Depth Charts as we recap the 2021 NFL Draft with Ryan Dunleavy of the New York Post. Ryan, 3 days plus Sunday and even today where rookie free agents get signed. It's an exciting time of year to be a football fan.
Unless you're a Packers fan.
Yeah. All of a sudden now Aaron Rodgers is on his way out, which is, this is just really weird. What a weird offseason. First, Deshaun Watson, now Aaron Rodgers.
And Russell Wilson in between.
Yeah. Even though we never bought that. But,
I mean,
it was still news.
I don't know that I buy this. So
yeah, I know. I'm not sure about it either. Just seems weird. Like it came from nowhere. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, not really. We know it came from last year with Jordan Love.
Sure.
So. Yeah.
But it's like, okay, you go out and you win a championship. I mean, you go out and you have a successful season. And I mean, you would have thought the time to do this would have been like right after that really gut-wrenching loss in the playoffs or a couple of weeks later, sometime during the offseason when you're thinking about the future.
It was not a mistake that it was on the 1-year anniversary of drafting Jordan Love. That was message sending.
I guess not. All right. So I tell you what, let's start with the NFC East, the team that you follow and cover the most, the New York Giants. And before we get into this, I'm going to say this because I think it's important because the other day we did an early recap of day one. And like, for instance, I'm going to use Leatherwood with the Raiders as an example. I think that's the time for the criticism. In my opinion, when the draft is over, that's when I don't really care about where players go and this and that. All right, let me see your pool of players. That's what I really care about. Because sometimes you end up getting players later in the draft that could have gone earlier in the draft, and it all evens out. So I think a lot of that depends. Of course, every team is different, but that's just kind of the way I look at it. I also think the rest of the stuff like grades and all that, I'm not really too much into. But it's just a fun time of year, obviously, to talk about it. And the Giants, I wanted to bring that up with the Giants because I don't necessarily agree with some of what they did with Tony as their first pick. But when I take a look at the draft in general, I actually thought they did a pretty good job.
Thought the Giants did. See, everything's like, if this, then this, then if this, then this. That's how the draft works. So the Giants did not do a good job getting their guy, because they allowed the Eagles to trade up with the Cowboys and steal Devonta Smith from them. So that right there eliminates any kind of like A-plus scenario for what happened because, they got tricked, basically. They got jumped. That said, once that happened, they did the best possible pivot. Instead of taking the best possible guy on their board or, panicking, they traded down. They got a future first-round pick in a year where the draft next year should be much better than it is this year, much deeper. They could be looking for a quarterback next year if Daniel Jones is really bad this year. Who knows? We just mentioned Rodgers, Wilson, Watson. Maybe they're acquiring a veteran quarterback next year with their 2 first-round picks. Maybe there's some disgruntled core. So they have the firepower now to make some moves in 2022. Once they lost out on Devonta Smith and Jalen Waddle and Patrick Surtain and J.C. Horn, the 4 guys they were really looking at, I thought they made the best possible scenario, which was they traded down, they got some picks, and then they stole Azeez Ojulari, who was somebody they were looking at 11.
Yeah.
They stole him at 50. They didn't pick him at 11. They didn't pick him at 20 after they traded down. They didn't pick him at 42. They traded down again and got him at 50. So if all checks, if he was in the mix at 11 and you get him at 50, that's a great pick.
Yeah, the talent's there with Tony, Ojulari, Aaron Robinson, who will be a good competition in camp at the slot position now. You have Ellerson Smith, a nice, smaller school player that had a very good career at Northern Iowa. And even Rodarius Williams, to get him in the 6th round, our lads had him as a 4th round grade. So I think in general, and by the way, we talked about the Georgia issues over the last couple of years, but you're not drafting Ojulari in the top 15 or in the top 20. So you get him in a bargain situation. And if he does turn out to be another one of these guys from Georgia who just doesn't pan out, all right, well, it wasn't a first-round draft pick.
Correct. And he's only 20, so you would theoretically give him time to develop. The Giants can't really do that too much because he's already their best pass rusher because they're so light on it. But no, to me, the bigger question is Tony. He's all gadgets and motions and fly sweeps and jets. And as in our mock draft, I had him going to Jacksonville because that's the perfect offense. And then we heard Urban Meyer say Sunday that the Giants picking Tony broke his heart. So yes, he did want Tony. Tony is not the ideal fit for Jason Garrett's offense. So Jason Garrett's going to have to budge a little there, I think.
The one position on the team the Giants did not look at, though, was offensive line. Were you surprised about that?
I was, but I don't think the Giants, once they passed on Rashawn Slater at 13, which that surprised me. At 11, which that surprised me. Once they did that, I didn't think they needed another second or third or fourth round offensive lineman. Let the guys you've invested in, Hernandez, Lemieux, Matt Pert, let those guys develop. They didn't need another young offensive lineman to throw in the mix and just go quantity over quality. To me, what they need is when guys get cut in training camp or in this next week after the draft, that's where they need another veteran guy, maybe a former Pro Bowler on the way down or whatever, or just a long-time starter like the guy the Bears released today, who started a lot of games. That's what they need. They don't need another rookie. They need a veteran.
Want to remind everybody, the Ourlads 2021 draft guide. Yes, the draft is over, but this is the perfect time to purchase the draft guide because now you know where your players are in this guide, which team. If your favorite team, let's say the Giants, you go, okay, I'm going to go look at a Jolari. I'm going to look at Williams. I'm going to look at all these guys. I'm also going to take a look at the rookie free agents that were signed over the last couple of days as well. So this is still a great time to purchase the draft guide at ourlads.com. Let's stay in the division and talk about the team that I thought actually had just as good, if not better, of a draft, and that were the Philadelphia Eagles. I like what the Eagles did. First of all, they did what the Giants weren't able to, and they got their player in Devonta Smith. Then they got a really good player in round 2 that could be a long-term center for them as long as he can stay healthy. That's the only knock on Landon Dickerson. They also picked up some good talented players that were graded a little bit later. Like, for instance, they got Gainwell, the running back, Ourlads, 3rd-round grade, picked him up in the 5th. The USC defensive tackle, 4th-round grade, picked him up in the 6th. Patrick Johnson, the Tulane outside edge rusher, 5th-round grade, got him in the 7th. And I also like the fact that they picked up the receiver Grimes from Florida as a signing. He's a 4th-round grade. And they also added Jamie Newman, a quarterback, as a signing as well. And overall, some other players that didn't even mention that look good with their draft profiles. So I think they did a really good job.
I'm less high on the Eagles draft class than you are. Dickerson, there's a lot of potential there, but he has been injured quite a bit. He's probably going to start this season on IR. That reminds me of Sidney Jones, and that did not work out for the Eagles. And then they got jumped in the 3rd round by the Giants. A little bit of a small measure of payback. The Giants jumped them for Aaron Robinson, the cornerback. That's who the Eagles reportedly, I think that was The Athletic that had that, were targeting, and the Giants jumped them. And they traded down, the Eagles traded down to get like another 6th-round pick. I don't understand that. They traded down, they got a 6th-round pick. That sometimes the Eagles strike me as a team that needs you to know they're the smartest guys in the room, and sometimes you get a little too cute when you do that.
Cowboys and Washington, not really high on their drafts, but at least the Cowboys got Micah Parsons, who could turn out to be a super player. He's also a risk, but if he turned into a super player, then maybe I don't really care about the rest of the draft. But the problem is they had a lot of draft picks. So when you have that many draft picks, you better hit on more than just Parsons. I'm just not really, when I look at there are a couple of guys, but overall, I think they had a lot of collateral, and I'm not sure they did a whole lot with it. And again, it's kind of same thing with Washington. I wasn't really too excited about what the Washington football team did either. Jamin Davis is their first pick. All right, Cosme in this round too. And I look at the rest of the draft, and I just, I mean, I'm not really nothing that just pops out on either the Cowboys or Washington that makes it look good for me.
I disagree. Cowboys, I like their class as long as the character concerns hold up. And we know Dallas is a place that isn't too wrapped up in your character. So it's not just Parsons. I think there's some other guys in that class who have had, red flags come up in their process or are immaturity signs in their process of some inexperience. They used their first 6 picks on defense. Jabril Cox, I think, was like the last of the 6. He's a guy I thought was a really good player. So I kind of like what the Cowboys did more than you do. I put them like on par with the Eagles draft. The Washington, I would agree, didn't do much for me. I was surprised they didn't try to trade up for Mac Jones, and then from there, I thought they picked a couple of guys about 10 picks earlier than I would have picked them.
All right, let's go to the north, and might as well start with the Packers. We opened the show with the Packers, and to tell you the truth, I don't even think when I take a look, first of all, once again, they go corner in the first round, which is what I did in our mock draft. So not only did I stiff Aaron Rodgers, but so did the Packers again. They decide, as usual, to draft the wide receiver in round 3. That doesn't mean Amari Rodgers isn't going to be a good player. It just they just don't, for whatever reason, they just won't use their first round draft pick on a wide receiver. And I just really looked at the rest of the draft, and I'm like, all right, they got a couple of players, but once again, nothing that popped out at me.
9 of the Packers' last 10 first-round picks are defense. The other is Jordan Love. So you can see why Aaron Rodgers is not happy. But as you and I said, they needed a corner. I don't know if they took the right corner.
That's
I
true.
probably would have taken Asante Samuel. But if you watch the NFC Championship game, you knew they needed a corner.
Chicago, this is one of those situations where it just all depends on Justin Fields. You have to, if you're a Bears fan, you have to be ecstatic that they were able to get Fields where they got him. It wasn't like they had to move into the top 5 or anything like that. Yes, they gave up a first next year, but at least they did have that second-round pick, and they used it on a tackle. And we thought that could have been their first-round draft pick. So they got a quarterback, and they were able to get a player who could start for them right away at right tackle.
And that's pretty much all they got, right?
Yep.
They didn't have
Agreed.
a third-round pick or a fourth-round pick because they traded up twice. They gave up the picks next year to the Giants, first-rounder and a fourth-rounder. So they really went all in this year, and that's what you would expect from a GM and a coach who might not be here next year. Let our replacements worry about fixing the future. We're going for it now. So like I said on this show Friday, you better hope that ownership had to sign off on those trades.
Keep an eye also on Charles Snowden, the free agent that they just picked up. 4th-round grade linebacker from Virginia. Let's move on to Detroit. No surprise with Campbell as their head coach that the Lions decided to go in the trenches with their top 3 picks. So you have to look. You're a Lions fan, and that's you just get that frame of mind going. That's the direction that this franchise is taking. Even the pick in the 4th round for Derek Barnes for Purdue is a Detroit Lion pick through and through. The guy's an old school lunch pail, dirty interior linebacker. So and Jamar Jefferson, to get him in the 7th round, I love these types of running backs who have these decorated college careers. They end up going in the 6th or 7th round because he didn't do this or he didn't do that, and then they become really good NFL players. And I think Jefferson's a guy to keep an eye on.
Do you have any idea what Calvin Johnson or Herman Moore are doing? Because I guess that's who the Lions are counting on to catch passes.
Amon-Ra St. Brown.
So, yeah, I mean, they did a very identity draft. They're going to be a trenches team. But, man, this is a receivers league right now, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, the 4th rounder, might be their number 1 receiver. That is scary.
Well, they better hope he's not. Next up is Minnesota, and they got even though they traded back with the Jets, they still were able to get their right tackle in Darisaw, their left tackle in Darisaw. So, and they went with Kellen Mond in the 3rd round. So was he in a good spot, Kellen Mond, for you? I know you talked about not really liking, depending on where you get these quarterbacks, but it's more round 2, right? Mond in the 3rd round. Was that okay?
I don't like it. No, I don't like day 2 pick quarterbacks. I can live with you in the fourth round. I did the research after we talked for an article. There are 32 quarterbacks picked in the second, third, or fourth round since 2013, the year after Russell Wilson was picked and everybody began chasing the next Russell Wilson. So there's been 32 of them. Well, now 35 after Davis, Mond, and Trask. But 32 of them between 13 and 20. 2 went to the Pro Bowl. 9 are already out of the league. 12 never got a chance to start. I think 3 other ones are starters right now. The Jimmy Garoppolo's, Jalen Hurts. It's just not worth it. It's just not worth throwing away a pick. I guess I get it if you're the Texans and you're not counting on Deshaun Watson. But for the Vikings and for the Bucks, I don't like it, especially for the Bucks. We'll get there in a sec. But you're in Super Bowl win now mode. Why not just take a flyer on another guy who can help you, give you some depth? Vikings, same kind of thing. You're going to get rid of Kirk Cousins soon. Is Kellen Mond going to be the guy? Probably not. You're probably going to draft a first rounder in 2023. So you really are just wasting Kellen Mond, in my opinion.
Well, I would think that if they're going to pick Kellen Mond where they picked him, they believe that he has the talent in a year or two when they get rid of Cousins to be their starter. That's why they're drafting him.
So did the Giants think that about Kyle Lauletta or Davis Webb? Did the Steelers think that about Mason Rudolph? Did the
I don't know. I mean, every team's different, obviously.
Did the Patriots think that about Jarrett Stidham? Like, you just never give the guy a chance. No one ever gives him a chance. Like, yeah, it's nice theory. Like, oh yeah, we believe he'll have a chance. But when you go 4-12 and you're like, oh, we're gonna get rid of Kirk Cousins. We just went 4-12, and now we're gonna go to Kellen Mond. No, let's start over with Joe Smith or whatever, the Auburn quarterback who just won the Heisman. Yeah, let's do that instead.
Well, the other thing to keep in mind, though, if you're just looking at the Vikings here, is they had 4 third-round draft picks. So to me, again, you're talking about a team that's saying we believe Kellen Mond could be the starter here in a year or two.
Yeah, I don't buy it. All right. If we're still doing this podcast in a year or two, I don't think he'll ever get a chance to start.
I do.
The numbers prove it.
I do.
9 of the 32 guys.
I don't like him myself, but I think I've heard enough people like him. The Vikings took him there for that obvious reason in my mind.
12 of 32 guys never got a chance to start. 9 of them are already out of the league. It just doesn't happen.
Meanwhile, overall, though, I think, again, talent-wise, I like some of the players that they picked up. I like the fact that they picked up Surratt, who is in the perfect spot to learn from a really good coach, Patrick Jones, Twyman, Smith-Marset, the receiver from Iowa, Bynum, I like him out of Cal, so I like the players that they added. And Spielman usually does a pretty good job with the draft, so I think the Vikings did a pretty good job. Again, like I said, their first pick, they got their left tackle and they traded down anyway. All right, let's start with Trask and the Bucks. So this was kind of surprising. And Trask, second round, which is almost like the third, but this is second round. And again, I'm going to say this. In my mind, the Bucks probably picked Trask. Let's see what happens in the next couple of years. And when Brady finally retires, hopefully I've given Trask enough time to be our starter.
Yeah, I don't buy it. So I don't buy it. I mean, Brady's going to retire in 3 years? Then Trask's going to be on the last year of his contract. You're not going to know anything about him. You're going to sign a free agent or you're going to pick a first rounder. That's just what you're going to do. So not buying it. I get why they did it. They brought back all 22 of their starters. They really didn't have a need to fill. So they just, took a flyer on a guy who fits Bruce Arians' system. But Bruce Arians might not even be the coach when Tom Brady retires. He might say, Brady's out, I'm out.
I don't like this pick. I agree more with the Mond one than this one. This one, to me, Trask is such an outside chance to start in the NFL as it is. You picked him in the second round. Like you said, they're trying to win a Super Bowl in the next year or two. This one I don't agree with. So. And I don't really like many of the other players they picked up anyway. So, next up, Atlanta. I think the Falcons did a good job. Now, it starts with Pitts. They made the decision not to go with the quarterback. So this is Matt Ryan's team, at least for another couple of years, it looks like. They get Jalen Mayfield in the third round, which was nice. He could have went late first. and they grabbed a couple other players, notable players. I mean, I think guys like Richie Grant, Darren Hall, Drew Dahlman, I think all those guys are going to contribute earlier in their careers.
I agree. I actually thought they overdrafted Richie Grant, but underdrafted Jalen Mayfield. So those cancel out, and I think they're both day one starters. So I think that's a pretty good draft.
The Saints, speaking of quarterbacks, but this quarterback was drafted a lot later. In the fourth round was Ian Book from Notre Dame. Meanwhile, they picked one of the reaches of the draft, Peyton Turner, with their first pick, the edge rusher from Houston. Other than that, Werner, he's more of a coverage linebacker. Adebo's got talent at corner. Not much else. Nothing that just goes, wow, keep an eye on this guy, in my mind.
No, I didn't think they had a very good draft. We all know they crushed the draft that year. They got all those, Kamara and Michael Thomas and who's the secondary, the Lattimore.
Yep.
They crushed that one draft. I did not think this was a good draft. They were obviously trying to trade up into the top 10. I think it was probably for one of those corners. They didn't get one. They end up with Adebo. So their first four picks are 3 on defense and a third-string quarterback. I'll pass on that. When you don't have Drew Brees and you didn't upgrade the offense at all, and Michael Thomas off that season, I know this is crazy because everybody thinks they have one of the best offenses in the league, but I thought they needed another playmaker.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the Drew Brees isn't on the team anymore. And the receiving situation was kind of weak last year. Now there's no Sanders. So, they absolutely needed another big-time receiver. They didn't get one just yet. Still have some time. By the way, Borregales, who might be the top place kicker in this year's draft, went undrafted and signed with the Bucs. And the Bucs did not have a good place-kicking situation last year, so he could actually end up being their place kicker when the season starts in Tampa Bay, which would be interesting if they give a rookie the opportunity to be the kicker on a team trying to win a Super Bowl. All right, now let's go to the West. No, Carolina ends the South, and they went with J.C. Horn as the top corner in the draft. They also picked up notable skill position players like Terrence Marshall in round 2, Chuba Hubbard in round 4, Shi Smith. That was maybe a bargain to get him in the 6th round. So and overall, I think they did a pretty decent job. I don't look at this, though. I don't really, in my mind, I don't see a superstar on the list. But, this is a team that needed to pack their roster with more talent. And I think they did a good job of it.
Marshall reunites with Joe Brady, the former LSU offensive coordinator who knows him well. So I think that's a good fit. They got Brady Christensen, their 3rd rounder, could be a starter at tackle. I think that's a good fit. Tommy Tremble, they needed tight end depth. I thought that's a good fit. I like what the Panthers did a lot, is I guess what I'm trying to say here. And I think I have a pint of Chuba Hubbard in my freezer, right? Isn't that a Ben & Jerry's freezer?
Oh, I don't know.
Flavored Chuba Hubbard? I think I just had a pint of that last night.
Well, if he has a good career, maybe he'll have his own ice cream named after him. The San Francisco 49ers, as we talk NFC West, it went to Trey Lance. And it's interesting that it was really close to being Mac Jones, and then Mac Jones dropped all the way to 15, or he could have went to number 3. But anyway, Lance was the pick, and he's not going to start right away. It's going to be Jimmy G's team for a little while, but this is going to be talked about for a long time. Trey Lance, Mac Jones, or even Justin Fields, or even, of course, Wilson. So,
if listening to Lynch and Shanahan, it wasn't that close. If you're listening to them, it wasn't that close. They were surprised at all the Mac Jones rumors floating around. It really wasn't that close. They identified Lance as their guy like back in January. So if you buy that story, then it really wasn't that close. And a lot of us, myself included, were on the wrong train with Mac Jones. So that's interesting. I don't know how Trey Lance could possibly live up. I mean, 2 first-round pick. They traded 2 future firsts. If he's as good as Derek Carr, if he's as good as Matt Ryan, is he worth that? I would say no. So I think they put a whole lot on him. What they gave up for him, he better be in that Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen category.
Well, it's interesting how Lynch kind of talked about this is going to be Shanahan's pick, the quarterback. So this is the ego now of Kyle Shanahan, and it's up to him to look like a genius, because nobody knows what this Trey Lance kid is going to become because he hasn't shown anything.
Yeah.
So this is all about Kyle Shanahan telling everybody, I'm going to show you how great I am.
Well, so let's use that to transition into the other guy in that division who wants everybody to believe how great he is. Well, what is this Rams draft? They drafted a 7th grader, 149-pound Tutu Atwell.
I don't know.
I mean, I get that he's so smart. He has the best offense. He loves speed guys. Tutu Atwell size terrifies me.
It's crazy.
Ernest Jones is not a cover linebacker. That's the kind of linebacker they needed. I was not impressed with the Rams draft. I mean, look, it's hard when you don't have a first rounder to have an impressive draft, and they haven't had a first rounder since 2015. I think Tutu Atwell probably was in 7th grade in 2015. So,
but unlike Seattle, who had like 3 picks, the Rams had a lot of draft picks to do something with it. And, besides Robert Rochelle, who I'm intrigued by in round 4, I agree with you. I mean, now they did sign a 4th-round grade tackle, Alaric Jackson from Iowa, but the Atwell thing, all offseason during these, camps and not camps, but the games, and I never got it. I saw him play at Louisville. I don't understand the infatuation. This guy should have been a 5th-round draft pick.
Well, he's got a lot of Kadarius Toney, who went 20 overall. He's got a lot of him in his game, I think. But he's like half the size.
Yeah, he weighs what I weigh. I'm actually a little bigger than him.
Yeah, you wish you weighed 149 pounds. I'm like Tutu Atwell.
Actually, I'm actually in that range. But 5'9", he's smaller than me. So, all right. And speaking of Seattle. Yeah, there was nothing there besides Eskridge. Eskridge will be an impact player for them because of Russell Wilson and because he'll be able to return punts and kicks. So that was okay to get a guy who could help you out with your offense.
But they didn't get an offensive lineman, which is what Russell Wilson really wanted, not another playmaker.
Arizona, taking a look, I actually liked what Arizona did. Because Collins, we talked about him. He was one of my favorite players in the draft. And I knew they were going to add another receiver at some point early, and they did. And Rondell Moore is an exciting player. You put him with Hopkins. Wow. I mean, they've got something to go in there possibly. Marco Wilson was a nice bargain in the 4th round. So, yeah, I thought they did a decent job.
I thought they did okay. Like a B-, C+ kind of draft.
All right.
I thought Collins player, but I thought they overdrafted him. I thought they could have traded down to get him. And Rondell Moore is a good player, but we just mocked Tutu Atwell size. Rondell Moore is 5'7". I mean, you better be handing the ball to Rondell Moore. He ain't winning 50-50 balls.
All right, let's go to the AFC. We'll start with the Jets. And look, the Jets did a good job in general because they were able to attack the player. It's interesting. They felt Vera Tucker was one of the top 10 players of the draft, so they traded up and got him. They thought Moore was one of the top 20 players in the draft, so they did not trade back in round 2 when they had a ton of calls with opportunities to trade down. So because they were able to pick up some, players that were graded out pretty well, I also like the fact that they added their running back. We talked about the possibility of them being a running back by committee team, and that's exactly what they're going to be. So to pick up Carter in the 5th round was a nice pickup as well. And they also added a couple of intriguing signings in Yeboah at tight end and Rashed, the linebacker from Oregon State. So I thought they did a good job.
I thought they had one of the top 5 drafts. And what's interesting is they went offense, 4 offenses, and then 6 defenses. They did what they said they were going to do for Sam Darnold and never did. They gave the quarterback a lot of support. They gave him an offensive lineman, a wide receiver, and a running back. Go out now and make some plays, Zach. And they didn't address a huge cornerback need until the 5th round, which I thought was a mistake.
Yeah, that's the only.
But that's the price of paying up. Trading up. That's the price of trading up. If you didn't trade your 2 third-rounders, one of those third-rounders was probably a cornerback, but you traded up for Vera Tucker.
Yeah, this is the thing that I was looking at with them, though, is that when I looked at their roster, and I say, okay, they've got young corners that need to be developed right now on the team, including Hall and Austin. So if you add more young corners, eventually you have to add some veterans. You can't have all these young corners with 1-2 years experience. So the Jets, obviously, they're probably going to re-sign Poole, and they're probably going to have to make another move for another veteran on an outside corner. I can't believe they're going to go into the season with this much youth at the cornerback position.
It feels like one of those veteran, I'm not going to sign because I'm not coming to OTAs, and I don't want the media to talk about how I'm not coming to OTAs. So call me on July 28th, and I'll come to training camp. Richard Sherman moves.
You definitely see that. Either the Jets or Seattle, probably. Oh, by the way, and we'll probably talk more about this down the line, I don't know how often I kept hearing, Sam Darnold never got this much help. Look, if the Jets liked Sam Darnold, they would have kept Sam Darnold. They didn't get anything for him. They got a couple of picks here and there, nothing big, no first rounder.
I don't know if I agree. They got a second-round pick next year. That's pretty valuable.
Yeah, but look, if they could have used their second pick of the draft on a premium player, if they liked Sam Darnold, they didn't like him. That's why he's gone.
If I agree.
Yeah, so everybody's apologists about what Sam Darnold is still going to be good because the Jets never get. Look, I know the Jets didn't give him a shot, but don't talk like the Jets wanted Sam Darnold. If the Jets felt like all these analysts think about Sam Darnold, they would have kept him, but they don't like him.
I don't know that I agree. I don't think I agree. I think the Jets, from asking around to a lot of people, I think the Jets mostly gave up on Sam Darnold because of the contract, because they were going to have to pay him $20-something million, and they didn't know enough about him because of their own fault of not giving him enough playmakers and coaching. I don't think it's that they think Sam Darnold's a crappy player. I really don't. I think they gave up on Sam Darnold because they wanted a new 5-year contract.
No, I didn't say Sam Darnold's a crappy player. I just don't. This talk about, well, if Sam Darnold was able to get all this and this and that, again, my point is that, but if they thought Sam Darnold was then going to see, when you say that, that's what you're trying to say is now that you have all this talent around you, you're going to be a quality starting quarterback in the league. That's what I'm hearing. Well, if the Jets thought he was going to be a quality starting quarterback in the league by surrounding him with all this talent, they would have kept him.
I don't agree. I'm telling you, I don't agree. I think they can't. I think the reason they got rid of him was because they didn't think he was a $22 million a year quarterback before ever played to that level. That doesn't mean he's not. They didn't think he was a quality.
Well, I'll say this: Zach Wilson, when you're picked second, you better be a $22 million quarterback.
But he's not. He's a what is his cap hit this year? He's an $8 million.
I get that. I'm just saying, but he better be. If he turns into Sam Darnold, then they just made a major mistake.
Yeah.
All right. So New England, Mac Jones. What a big shocker. The Patriots sat at 15, and Mac Jones fell on their laps. Then they go after Barmore, who fell on their laps in round 2. So that's already a home run draft for the Patriots.
And then they paired up 2 Oklahoma teammates. Didn't they get Ronnie Perkins? Yep. Who I thought was one of the second-round pass rusher who they got in the 3rd round, and then they got Ramondre Stevenson, who might be the best pass-protecting back in the league, and you're going to need that if Mac Jones is your quarterback, or if Cam Newton's running, quarterback end-arounds, you're going to need a blocking running back. I liked Ramondre Stevenson for the Patriots.
And I also like Cam McGrone, the Michigan guy in the 5th round. Me being a Michigan guy, the only knock on him was his health. I think if he was healthy, he could have easily been a day 2 player. So keep an eye on Cam McGrone for Michigan. They have a ton. Barmore, Perkins, McGrone, the guys they picked up last year. They got a ton of talented young defensive players right now that Bill Belichick, if he is, which we all know he is, a great teacher, watch out for the Patriots in a couple of years. I also think the Miami Dolphins continue to do a solid job. Just like the Jets, the Dolphins are finally looking like they have put everything together in their front office and on the sidelines. They were able to pick up their speed receiver They picked up a couple of good defensive players. They picked up another key lineman, and they picked up a tight end, which I was kind of surprised about because they didn't need a tight end, but now their tight end room is stocked.
I did those draft grades you were saying you're not a big fan of. I did those for the Post on Sunday. The Dolphins and the Ravens. The Dolphins and the Ravens got my only 2 A pluses.
Oh, okay.
I thought the Dolphins did a great. That to me, they got 4 guys who could have been top 32 players. They got 4 guys who I thought were in one mock draft or another that I did were first rounders. So I thought they did a great job.
Also, the Buffalo Bills. And thank goodness, as a Jet fan, they didn't get the opportunity to draft Etienne. Meanwhile, they got Rousseau out of Miami, who is kind of a guy that you just got to hope can stay healthy, and he doesn't have a lot of experience. Basham's okay in the second round, but I nothing on this Buffalo draft scares me as a Jet fan.
I thought Buffalo needed to be able to run the ball better and stop the run better. And their whole draft was pressure the passer and, pass. I guess they're just going to throw the ball 60 times a game and hope their opponent throws it 60 times a game.
Yeah, they got to rely on those 2 young guys in the backfield again and hope they mature unless they pick up a veteran or something like that. All right, let's go.
I thought Miami clearly won the AFC East in this draft. Like, to me, they were the best of the 4 teams. I'll be surprised. Look, the best team is still the Bills, but I think the Dolphins closed the gap in this draft.
Well, the bottom line with the Patriots, the Dolphins, and the Jets versus the Bills is we know the Bills have their quarterback. The other 3 teams, they have to find out if they got their quarterback. In the North, Chase reunited with Burrow, so that's a nice little story there for Bengals fans. They get one of my favorite players, Asai from Texas, in the 3rd round. They get a tackle from Clemson in round 2. I thought they did a pretty decent job.
I thought they got too cute. After they passed on Sewell for Chase, that's fine. Okay. Then they got to whatever they were, 38, and there are a lot of tackles sitting there. And they traded down from 38 to 46 with the Patriots. And they still got their tackle, Jackson Carman, who I guess, if I'm them, I hope was the number 1 tackle I had at 38, and I traded it down to 46, and I still got him. But he wasn't my number 1 tackle there. They passed on Tevin Jenkins, they passed on Liam Eichenberg, and they passed on somebody else whose name escapes me right now. They lost 3 tackles between 38 and 45. So to me, they better hope that Carman was the guy they really wanted, because then they look smart. But if not, if they were all about the same, to me, they got the worst one.
Well, our lads did have Carman as a second round grade. So
ahead of Jenkins, ahead of Eichenberg.
Yeah. Not a lot.
Okay. So our lads agrees. I did not.
Yeah, we'll see. These are second round tackles.
They're not all going to work out. They're not all going to work out. History tells us they're not all going to work out. One of those guys is going to be good, one will be okay, and one's going to be a huge bust.
Yeah, and Carman does have bust in him. I don't think there's any question about that. All right, Cleveland is next, and they went after Newsome. And no surprise that they went defense with the first 2 picks. To get Owusu in round 2 was a big steal for the Browns, especially because they were looking for a hybrid type of player to begin with. And then they get Owusu, the hybrid. So that kind of worked out for them big time.
He's Jabril Peppers, but without the first round pick. So, I like that pick. I think he could play some linebacker, some safety. Newsome, I thought Newsome and the Browns was like the easiest thing to match up. If you thought he was going to slip to 26, it was the easiest thing to match up. So, I thought they had a good first couple rounds. And the other tackle, just to go in reverse for a sec, that the Bengals passed on was Walker Little from Stanford.
Oh, by the way, Cincinnati, we forgot, they drafted the only kicker, I believe the only place kicker in the draft, which is McPherson. They then signed the punter from Ohio State, Chrisman. And Chrisman is a really good talent. So they actually could have rookie kicker, rookie punter when the season begins in Cincinnati. As far as Cleveland, they actually signed one of the top rookies after the draft in Marvin Wilson, the defensive tackle from Florida State, who had a 3rd-round grade, and they were able to pick him up after the draft. So not bad for the Cleveland Browns to pick him up as well. And that kid Felton from UCLA in the 6th round, I thought that was a good spot for him because he's a talented kid. He can do a lot of things. All right, me.
Of all the players who went undrafted, Marvin Wilson was the most surprising.
Yep, absolutely. Baltimore, Bateman, no surprise. They were able to also get away from Penn State at the bottom of the round after they traded with Kansas City. Now, he's a project, but Baltimore Ravens, you just get the feeling that, okay, watch out. If there's a team that could turn a project, a freak athlete like this into a star edge rusher, it's that Baltimore Raven defense.
Yep, agree. It's a perfect fit. He had no sacks last year. It won't surprise me if it is 8 sacks for Wink Martindale. Won't surprise me. I love their whole draft. I honestly did. I'm looking. I know I gave them an A+ in the post. Hold on, I'm looking for the names. I know. Even into the 5th round, I like their draft. Yeah. So Ben Cleveland, the guard. Tylan Wallace. They got another receiver to go with. Yep. Rashad Bateman. If you told me that their top 3 receivers next year are Hollywood Brown, Bateman, and Wallace, 3 guys who are young, that would not surprise me. And Sean Wade, I'm much higher on than most of the national media and some of the scouts out there. He was an All-American 2 years ago. He was terrible last year on the outside. Well, welcome to the NFL. Put him back on the inside, and I think he can be good.
Yeah, Wallace was a monster before he tore his ACL in 2019. He had a monster season the year before that. So, and he came on and actually was productive last year, even after the ACL. And then they got the best fullback in the draft, Ben Mason from Michigan. So, all right, Pittsburgh, the Steelers round out the AFC North. And, okay, you talk about the easiest pick in the 1st round was Najee Harris to the Steelers. And maybe not a surprise that Freiermuth went to the Steelers as well, the Penn State, the local kid, because he may not have all the measurables, but he's a very talented player. And he could be a perfect fit right now with that offense because they need a tight end. But other than that, I really didn't, I'm not going to bash what the Steelers scouting department does because they're pretty good. But personally, I just didn't see anything that stuck out at me.
No, I thought it was a ho-hum draft. When you pick a receiver in the 1st round, a running back in the 1st round, you leave yourself open to some criticism, and that's what they're going to hear. But to me, this draft was about making another run for Ben Roethlisberger. They didn't plan for the future; they're making another run.
Yeah, and they didn't draft any quarterbacks because they already have one of them.
Yeah.
I kind of forgot that they took a flyer on what's his name.
Dwayne Haskins.
I was like, oh, geez, I forgot about that.
I'm not. Yeah. I would not count that developing into anything.
No. Jacksonville starts out the South, and they got the Clemson backfield of Lawrence and Etienne. That's going to excite everybody in Jacksonville. Look, Walker Little, you mentioned him. Another player that had like a big injury. That's going to be the difference in finding out whether he makes it all the way back to being the player that everybody thought he was going to be before the injury. And they picked up a few other players, but this is going to be all about Lawrence and Etienne.
Yeah, I didn't like. Look, I have a couple things to say about the Jacksonville draft. Forget Trevor Lawrence. He's a home run pick. I like that they're building their defense from the secondary in, which is clearly what they're doing after Griffin and Rashawn Jenkins in free agency, and then Tyson Campbell and
Cisco from Syracuse.
So clearly they're building their defense from the secondary in, which is the New England model. No surprise, Urban and Belichick are close. I did not like the Etienne pick at all. To me, this is a team that has a lot of holes on it. Obviously, they were 1-15 last year, and your best playmaker is James Robinson. And now you've relegated him to like 3rd back behind Etienne and Carlos Hyde. I really don't understand that. I get it. He's not the speed guy that Urban Meyer loves, but for a year or two, I think you could have gotten away with a guy who had a great rookie year and a running back and done something else to help the team there.
I wonder if the fact that they played together, I wonder how much that played into it.
I mean, if you're already, then you understand why Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers are pissed that they have no say in their drafts if Trevor Lawrence already has a say in his draft.
Meanwhile, the other guy that was one of the top free agents that wasn't drafted was Dylan Moses, the linebacker from Alabama, who had a grade 3 grade. And he wind up not even 7 rounds, not 6 rounds, 7 rounds, but 7 rounds. I mean, to get him as a free agent, that was a nice move from the Jags to pick him up for nothing. A little bit of cash. All right, let's go to Tennessee because I thought Tennessee did a pretty decent job myself. Take a look at their team. Look, Farley, it's all going to be about health because we know how talented he is. If the injury's behind him, that's a great pickup. They get a tackle, which was a big need in round 2. And they also picked up Molden, which they needed, a slot corner. They got him. And Rashad Weaver in round 4. He's a second round grade. They picked him up in the 4th round. And I also think Breeze was a nice pickup in round 6. He's an excellent special teams player.
The Titans went boom or bust in the first round, which surprised me after they went Isaiah Wilson and busted last year. Surprised me they would go back to boom or bust. But look, Caleb Farley could be the best corner in the draft, so maybe they get boom.
Indianapolis, Kwity Paye fell on their laps. They were definitely looking for an edge rusher. They picked up 2 in their first 2 picks, and they added Sam Ehlinger, the quarterback from Texas, in round 6.
Yeah, he's a guy who was a really highly touted recruit. Went through a lot of coaching changes in Texas, so maybe some untapped potential there. Two pass rushers. What they didn't do was add an offensive tackle. So you and I have talked about this. They must have some sort of wink.
Yep.
They must have some sort of wink head nod with Mitchell Schwartz or Eric Fisher or something, because otherwise I don't know what they're doing at left tackle.
All right, and for the Houston Texans, they didn't have a lot of draft picks, but I think when you take a look at it, at least the first pick, Davis Mills, was definitely all about, as you mentioned before, they have no idea what's going on with Watson. But Nico Collins in the 3rd round and Brevin Jordan, I was shocked that Brevin Jordan lasted to the 5th round. There were these tight ends who I've heard of, but I'm like, are you serious? I mean, it's like the 7th or 8th tight end picked. So to get him in the 5th round, I thought was nice. But they went with Davis Mills.
I can live with that. I understand that. Listen to this trade they made with the Panthers. The Texans traded the 109th pick, which is a 4th rounder, and the 158th pick, which is a 5th rounder, and a 2022 4th rounder for the 89th pick. So to move up 20 picks, they gave up a 4th rounder and a 5th rounder. To move up 20 picks in the 4th round, they gave up a 4th rounder and a 5th rounder. So they could actually end up giving up a higher pick next year than they got back, and they gave in other things. I just don't understand
who was the pick?
Nico
Collins. Okay.
I don't understand what they're doing. I really don't. So.
All right, let's move on. Well, look, what's his name? Caserio. More than half of these guys going to camp are new. So putting.
If that team doesn't go 1-15, I don't know if I've ever.
Yeah, that's true. He'll have the first. Do they have their pick next year?
I don't know. The Dolphins probably have it. No, I think they do. I think they have it.
All right. Also, closing out the West and the AFC. Let's tell you what. Start with Leatherwood and the Raiders, as I talked about. So that was a real crazy move. But then they come back and they get the kid from TCU in the 2nd round. Yeah. I was like, okay, I could see the exact opposite, and then that's okay. So this is why I said just wait until the draft goes, and then I think you look at it and you're okay with it. Other than that,
that's a great point. That's a great point. If they took Mo Rig 17 and Leatherwood 43,
nobody's talking.
That's a great point. I guess NFL Network said the reason Mo Rig slipped was a back injury recently. Now, obviously, that's scary, but certainly scared some teams off, but to me, he was the best safety, and the Dolphins actually took Javon Holland before him. So that surprised me a little bit. But yeah, you're right. And we talked about this. If you listen to this show, then you know to expect the unexpected from the Raiders, going back to Clem Farrell, Damon Arnett. I must have told you 20 times they were going to pick somebody in the first round that had a second or third round grade, and that's exactly what they did.
And again, and the other thing that we talked about too is that the infatuation with the big schools. Alabama, of course, being that first round draft pick. All right, let's go to the Chargers, and the Chargers got protection with Slater. That was an easy analysis that they needed to beef up the offensive line. They get Samuel in round 2. Palmer was a nice pickup in round 3 to add to that receiving crew, which is a nice threesome now. Rumpf in round 4 as well. Not bad. So I thought the Chargers did okay.
Of all the teams that just had their own picks in rounds 1 and 2, so not the Dolphins, Jaguars, Jets, of all the teams that just had their own picks in rounds 1 and 2, I like their rounds 1 and 2 the best, I think, in the league. Slater is a great player, need. Boom. Marry talent, need. Sante Samuel, marry talent, need. We did a mock draft. You picked Asante Samuel like 3rd overall. Yeah. What was it?
The third corner, yeah.
Yeah. So very surprised that he was still there at like 45 or 48 or wherever they got him. So 38.
And he's going to team up with his ex teammate Derwin James.
Yeah, so I like what they did quite a bit.
And then the Denver Broncos, I actually thought Denver did a good job. They get Surtain. They needed some help in the secondary. They got Surtain. They get the run. Look, I was shocked. Javonte Williams, good player. But it's like, okay, do you really need to go after a running back again? I guess that tells us that you don't think Melvin Gordon's going to be around much longer. They pick up the Wisconsin Whitewater kid that made a big news at the Senior Bowl with his tapes, and he's pulling down trees and he's doing triceps with the water jugs. And they get Browning in the 3rd, Stearns in the 5th. Seth Williams in the 6th. I like what they did. I think the Denver Broncos, and not a surprise that they had a good draft because they get Peyton comes in from Minnesota, and Minnesota usually has good drafts.
I will say I thought it was very noteworthy as we started this show, and now we'll end it with Aaron Rodgers. I thought it was very noteworthy that they did not pick a quarterback. That seemed like let's just leave this spot open.
Well, they got Bridgewater too.
Yeah, I mean, for a 6th round pick. I mean, see you, Teddy. I thought it was very noteworthy that they left that spot open in case Aaron Rodgers winds up there. Because if Aaron Rodgers winds up there, Teddy Bridgewater is going back to Green Bay to be the guy behind Jordan Love or whatever. So he'll be the 5th or 3rd or 4th most important piece. It'll be like 3 first-round picks and Teddy Bridgewater. But the Packers would need a Teddy Bridgewater kind of guy to be there for Jordan Love, so there you go.
Yeah, so what did he have? He had Denver, the Raiders, the 49ers. Was that it? Those were his top 3? Rodgers?
I mean, I don't know.
I think that those are the 3 teams that I heard that he would go to. Denver, the Niners, and we know the Niners are out now, and the Raiders.
As far as I know, he doesn't have a no-trade clause, so he really doesn't get to say where he goes.
Okay, and then finally the Chiefs, not really excited about the Bolton pickup. He's just going to help him out in the line. They have a terrible linebacking crew, so that'll help.
Yeah, so he'll start, I think.
Oh, yeah,
probably.
Day 1, absolutely. And they had a complete transformation of their offensive line that continued with Creed Humphrey in round 2 at center. And then they got maybe a bargain. Trey Smith fell all the way down to the 6th round. Not sure exactly why that was, but maybe they got a bargain there.
I think it was a heart condition, right? I think he was diagnosed with a heart condition somewhere. So that always scares teams off. Possible steal there. Yeah, they totally redid their offensive line. When you asked me about the Chiefs' last 4 months, it was their offensive line got embarrassed in the Super Bowl, and they spent the next 4 months really only caring about that. That's literally all they did for 4 months.
It's smart.
Their offensive line.
Absolutely smart. Because they know it's about next year again. That's a team that in a year or two they're going to have some roster issues, but they're trying to win Super Bowls now. So, all right, what are you working on, Ryan?
Taking a deep breath. Taking a deep breath. I'll do some NFL. I'll probably do power rankings this week after the draft. See who moved up, moved down. But it's that time of year where you take a little bit of a deep breath from the NFL, and I'll probably chime in a little bit, help my teammates out on NBA stuff or MLB stuff. But all of a sudden, before you know it, there'll be rookie mini camp is here, and OTA start May 24th. Right. So all of a sudden, May 24th is really the date to circle. The next 3 weeks are kind of quiet, but May 24th we'll have who reported, who didn't report, all that kind of fun stuff.
Yeah, and it's at least it's exciting to hear, even though I am not getting excited because I'm not going to get the wool pulled out of me again. But it's exciting to hear that both college and the NFL, there's a lot of positive news out there about stadiums being pretty full this season. So that's promising.
Yep.
So
yep.
All right, Ryan, appreciate it as always. We'll talk to you again sometime soon.
Sounds good.